As we all know, on this coming Sunday is the start of the Munster Senior Hurling Championship. Limerick and Clare, they will meet in Ennis. Cork and Waterford will meet in Waterford. Our panel for this evening, John O'Shea and Francis Coughlan. John, first of all, let's go to Cork and Waterford. What kind of a game are we expecting down in Walsh Park?
Look, Stevie, I suppose everybody knows, or the general consensus is that Waterford are probably at a very low ebb at the moment. Relegated from division, first top division down to the second division next year. They also would have the worst record of all the 5 teams in the round robin since it started. Really only winning 2 of those 16 matches. Davy Fitzgerald is definitely under pressure following. They finished bottom of the table last year of the 5. Having won the league there, then 2 years before that. So they're having a very, very bad run. Now they're back in Welsh Park this year after their, played their home matches away in Thurles last year due to their renovations. But look, there's not great expectations among the Waterford public at the moment, Stevie. So look, a win would be a big bonus to them. And I suppose the first game in Munster is a huge factor. Cork finished, you see, last year, first time since the qualifiers or since the round robin that they didn't, come out of Munster. So it's a huge game for both teams on Sunday in Welsh Park, Stevie.
Francis Coughlan, if I could just maybe pop across to you there for a moment, do you think that some of the teams may not have taken the league as serious as they should have?
Yeah, I think there's definitely an element to that. If you look back at last year's league, Tipperary went, I think, post hell for leather. Limerick went and won it. Cork had a good run in the league. I suppose Kilkenny, to be fair to them, probably had that choice of taking a run in the league. No disrespect to some of the teams in Leinster, they were going to come out of it. But Cork kind of faded in the Munster Championship. They never really got going. Tipperary had a good start to the Munster Championship, but once the Limerick game came, they really just seemed to kind of hit a wall. And you wonder, was the exertions of the league and the exertions of the early round of the championship just catch up with them? Limerick, on the other hand, the start of the championship was very slow for them. Waterford could have beaten them last year. They were probably just lucky enough to get past Cork on the last day to get in to a Munster final, and we know what happened after that. Their season really took off. But you'd have to look at the league and wonder what teams want out of it. Are teams just happy to try out players? And with Tipperary's perspective, I think they tried out nearly 35 or more players in the league. So you have to look at what teams want from the league.
Okay, so we're now only days away now from the Munster Championship. As I said there in my introduction, the 2 big ones on this coming Sunday. So we're looking at Cork and Waterford first. What way do you see it panning out?
I suppose John said there, Waterford probably are at a very low ebb at the moment. But I suppose if we look back to last year again, Waterford weren't given much of a chance against Limerick in round 1 in Thurles last year, and for all intents and purposes probably should have won last year, to be fair. They had their chances. It depends really on what Davy can bring to the table. We all know there's a surprise in Davy somewhere along the line, but if we don't see it in round 1, I don't think we're going to see it, to be honest. Cork have a team that is threatened to come, I suppose, with the likes of Barrett, Jack O'Connor. Connolly was starting to come back there from injury there in the latter stages of the league as well. Mix it in with the likes of Harmody, Patrick Horgan, whether he'll start or not, he's probably still going to be an impact on it as well. There's a lot of players there that probably haven't pushed on as well as they liked, and I suppose what's probably driving Cork as well maybe is the whole famine as well. The fact that they haven't won in All-Ireland since going back to 2005 now. So there has to be a certain drive there as well. I don't think Cork took the league as serious at the start. I think they were trying out more players. They probably had an amount of injuries as well. So when you look at that, you'd have to fancy Cork on paper, but I think Davy could have a surprise somewhere. Bearing in mind that Cork's record in Walsh Park wouldn't be the best either, but you'd still have to have Cork, I think, as favourites. What would you think, John?
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree with you, Francis, but you're dead right in that. Historically, Cork haven't a good record in Welsh Park, but if you see the 2 first matches in the league was against Clare and against Kilkenny, that they were defeated in, and they're the two teams that ended up in the league final. You know, they were at the harder side of the group.
But do you think, John, that some of those teams are taking the league a little bit more serious than the others?
Well,
it's hard to... maybe if they were waiting to see what was the result of another game, you know where I'm coming from here.
I do, yeah. But look, the league would definitely be trying out players, but you'd still be trying to, you know, you're not going out to lose a game. The last 3 games then in the league, they came through, and what was it, Alan Conley, was it, that got double hat-tricks there in the last round and the one before that. Now, we must remember last year, I think Cork scored, 8 goals last year in the Munster Championship, and Conley scored 4 of those. Yeah. So they have the goal back again. So, talking about Waterford there, you see, you have Tyg de Bourke is back. He's back and most likely will man the centre of defence.
It looks as if he's going to be fitting in at 6.
Yeah. Conor Prunty is back again and available for selection. Was it Stephen Bennett, who was injured there early on in the league, and Callum Lyons? Them 4 lads are available. Now, they are definitely going to strengthen Davy's hand. As Fran said, you know, the first round is vital. Now, there are rumours coming out of Waterford, which, you know...
Hard to believe them, isn't it?
But it's very, very hard to believe. You're always going to get... You see, it only takes one to start a rumour, like, you know...
That's it. Then it spreads like wildfire.
But there is not great expectations among the followers in what... Now, one victory on Sunday would change all that. Now, the capacity for Welsh Park is what, around 12,000?
That's handy enough, yeah.
About that, handy enough, you know, and I think with the season tickets and all that, they may be outnumbered. The home supporters may be outnumbered, but there will be a huge atmosphere there. But it'll be interesting to see how Waterford will adapt to Welsh Park, because the confines of the playing area, I think, stifled Waterford there, especially when this round robin came. They were always better off in Limerick or Cork or Thurles, the wide expanse of grounds.
That is one thing I have often noticed as well. Some teams may say to themselves, okay, we're going to really put it up to Waterford here, down in the ground. Sometimes Waterford are better off in the likes of Limerick or Thurles or Cork, wherever you want to go in the bigger fields.
Yeah, and I was down there, was it a couple of years ago, they played Tip in the league there, and I never seen so many line balls, you know what I mean? It was because of the ground being so narrow, like, you know, the length of it is okay, you can't change that as such, but they have, I think, I don't know what they have expanded the width of the field by, but it'll be interesting to see what happens on Sunday. But I wouldn't be surprised if Waterford pulled one over on them, but I have to say Cork to me, because I think Cork will be probably finished 3rd place in Munster this year.
Let's move on to Ennis, 2 p.m. on this coming Sunday, and it's going to be Limerick taking on Clare. They're near neighbours. Some of them even went to school together inside the city. So this is going to be a one now that is going to test Limerick in their defence of the All-Ireland, and not only that, they're going for 5 in a row. Over to you again, John. What are you going on this
Look, at the moment, Clare, you know, they are the team that people are talking about. They have come through the league. We know what they've done in it. Came through what was probably the stronger group, undefeated in the league. You know, defeated Tipperary above in Portlaoise in the semi-final.
And when people are talking about them, justifiably so.
Yeah, because like you can only go on current form, and like Clare needed some silverware this year, because, you know, they were beaten last year in the Munster final, they were beaten the year before in the Munster final, was it after extra time? You know, they topped the round robin group last year, finished on what was it, 6 points. They were only defeated once, and that was in the opening game by Tipperary. So, like, they're there on merit, and they followed it on in the league this year. They got the silverware that was required for their followers. Now, can they bring that intensity into the Munster Championship? Like Fortress Cusack Park, you know, will definitely be tested on Sunday. They have found some players during the league, and in that league final they were able to give game time, and you see the subs that they brought on there in that league final. Shane Ronald at half time, Aaron Shanahan, David McInerney, Rory Hayes, Shane Amari. You know, them 5 lads who would be on the starting 15.
I'd be interested to know, would Francis agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think, Stevie, you'd have to agree there with what Clare have found. I think they found a panel size as well. Well, I suppose the absence of Tony Kelly has been another, I suppose, big talking point with Clare. And it's probably given players like the likes of Aidan McCarthy and that more freedom to kind of, take on more responsibility. An awful lot of the scoring we've seen against Limerick in the past few games, Clare and Limerick, has been Tony Kelly. He gets an awful lot of freedom against Limerick because Limerick stick to their positions. With Tony Kelly not there, it's left to other players to step up into the breach. And I suppose Shane O'Donnell only came back into play the other day, which was kind of, I suppose it was expected as well, but the performance he had as well added to what Brian Lohan has on the bench now for Clare.
Would you start Shane O'Donnell, or would you use him as an impact substitution maybe?
I think it's probably going to be maybe hard to start him based on what we've seen, what a lot of those Clare players give in the league. Like, I mean, there's a lot of players there, or the likes of Ian Galvin, we mentioned McCarthy, or the likes of Peter Duggan, Rogers, Cahan Malone, players like that that have really shown in the league and kind of maybe cemented their place on the team as well. Now, you can't knock the performance of O'Donnell. When he came on in the second half, he was straight into it. It was like a tiger when he came onto it. He was onto the ball straight away. Like, you can't really knock that. But going on what Clare have shown so far, they've built a panel now, and maybe it might suit Lohan to keep the likes of Tony Kelly if he's back, and then Shane O'Donnell in reserve. And maybe it gives the players that played in the league that little bit more confidence as well. And it also strengthens that panel more, because bear in mind, the league was the league, but the championship is what it's going to come down to. This goes up another 2 or 3 notches.
I was just going to say that it's going to go up 2 or 3 notches. You're dead right. John, if I could just briefly go back to yourself for a moment. A lot of teams physically cannot match Limerick. I think it's a different story with the near neighbours Clare.
Yeah, I think Clare has got the intensity to, put it up to Limerick. Now, they have put it up to them in the last couple of years. I remember the corresponding game last year, Clare, defeated Limerick by a point in the round robin. Now, they were defeated in the Munster final, the reverse by a point. The year before, it was, what was it? Clare won it again the year before by a point in the round robin and defeated in extra time in the Munster final. So, I mean,
very little between them.
Very little between them. But Clare have been on the wrong side of these 1 point margins, and Limerick seem to be able to get over that when they're coming down the home straight. If they're tight, they're able to just grind out a victory. Sometimes, they might get the rub of the green with a free that should have been given against them or what. But, these things are only noticed when it's a tight game. There's 70 minutes probably gone before that. But they have been etching out a narrow 1 point victory. Now, what will do the winners on Sunday? It won't define their year, far from it. It didn't define Limerick's year last year or the year before. So, but I think Clare, with their supporters down, they will. Now, they were beaten last year by Tip in the first round, and they came back, I suppose, after that, and won the next 3 round robins, went down again by a point. But I think their supporters would love to get one over on Limerick again next Sunday. Now, I'd be inclined to agree with that. A lot of people are thinking that, and I'd nearly go along with that.
Francis, what would happen? What do you think will happen in the championship if Limerick come out with a victory on this coming Sunday?
I think if Limerick come out with a victory, it's hard to see what way the other teams are going to come out and face Limerick, to be honest. It's going to be a different scenario.
Is it going to make it difficult on the following weekend against Tipperary for Tip?
It probably is. I mean, Limerick will have built the momentum again. There's been a lot of talk of Limerick's performance against Kilkenny, the way they conceded 3 goals. They conceded 3 goals against Tipperary in the league as well. There's been a lot of talk about Limerick's defence and that, and we see John Kiley on during the week saying that they've tried to work on that, the leaguey defence and that. But in terms of what it does for the rest of the Munster Championship, it's huge. If Clare turn over Limerick on Sunday below in Ennis, but it gives every other team confidence to really go at Limerick, because they're coming back into the Gaelic grounds to face probably will be a fresh Tipperary 7 days later, And it could define the whole Munster Championship then if Tipperary was to turn over Limerick below the Gaelic grounds, because it puts Limerick under huge pressure then heading down to Cork 2 weeks later. On the opposite side of it is if Limerick win, like, their momentum is back up, their confidence is back up, and they'll have done it without the likes of Dara Donovan, without Peter Casey, and maybe, you know, they're still probably carrying a few knocks as well, like, and that confidence is going to lift Limerick, and it's probably going to drain the confidence maybe out of some of the other teams in Munster. That is there any chance that we can actually go and beat this Limerick team?
John, do you think that John Kiely may start, if he's fit, Kyle Hayes in the half-back line?
It's going to be very interesting to see, because, like, there's a huge amount of talk there early on in the league about the Limerick panel and how strong it was and all, but I'm just beginning to wonder for the intensity of the Munster Championship.
But he still finds one or two coming off the bench, and it's like Cody was doing it for quite a while with Kilkenny, so to me he's normally finding one or two per season.
Oh, of course, I agree with you, but I'm just wondering there, like, to go back to what Francis said there, and I agree with him, you know, a Limerick victory in Cusack Park on Sunday, Limerick have 2 points. Tip go down the following week down to the Gaelic grounds, and a victory for Limerick against Tip in round 2 would give them 4 points, and they'd be almost guaranteed 3rd place in Munster and their place in the All-Ireland series. Now, the opposite could be a win in Clare on Sunday and Tip going down again the following week. Now, that could be a plus or a minus for Tip, because, like, the pressure would be all on Limerick then, you know, so it's going to be a huge game, and I think from a Tip perspective it's really going to be intriguing as to, you know, what way the thing will peer out after Sunday. Now, we were talking there, because last year, remember, Limerick finished on 5 points, and it was probably the last minutes of the final round game against Cork where they qualified not only for the Munster final but also for the All-Ireland series. Well, a point the other way and Limerick were gone. That's how tight.
They seem to be finishing the game stronger, don't they?
They do, yeah. Now, I'm going to ask a question, and I think I heard we discussed it. Is Adam English up to the rigours and the intensity of Munster senior hurling?
Let's put that to Francis straight away.
It's hard to know. It's a tough test, and you're going down into the cauldron, which is Innis, and it's going to be buzzing down there on Sunday. The crowd is right up on top of you when you go into Innis. Clare are the one team, as John has said already, that can match Limerick physically, and it'll be interesting to see whether English starts or not. When you're looking at the team, Peter Casey is suspended, and right, we know he's out, but who's going to go in and take that role? Because Casey generally loops out around the field and picks up on a lot of loose ball and interchanges out the field. Is Adam English the player to do that? But is he going to be able to match it physically?
What do you think?
I don't know, is he? I was looking at the team and how they could line out. It's possibly, like, could you start Flanagan and O'Donnell in the full forward line with Gillane, and maybe have Flanagan going further out the field and leaving the likes of Gillane and O'Donnell inside? You know, you're probably the likes of Conor Cleary there matching up. I think he'll match up with Gillane. Adam Hogan, will he stay inside or is he going to follow out? I'd imagine he's going to stay inside.
Would you go for speed or strength?
See, I think Clare have the strength, you see, and they definitely have speed in Hogan there as well. Just going back to what John said there, and maybe Kyle Hayes starting, it's interesting to see that maybe Hannon wasn't in the best form in the league. He didn't play a whole lot. Dan Morrissey didn't play a whole lot. But the one key is that Darragh Donovan is out of midfield. We know he's not going to play.
Is he a bigger loss than any of them?
I think he's a big loss, because if John Kiely wanted to change his midfield around, he could bring O'Donoghue back into the half-back. He could play him centre-back like he did last year. But I don't think he can afford to do that now, because he's going to change his whole midfield if he does. I think on Sunday you're probably going to see the likes of Lynch and O'Donoghue midfield. I think Kiely hasn't really diverged too much from his same starting 15, to be honest. I know he's found players here and there, but He's probably going to start, I would imagine, Hannon centre back and probably Coughlan O'Neill then at wing back.
Well, that's if Hannon is fully fit.
That's if he's fully fit. I'd imagine you could see Kyle Hayes going in centre forward. I think it's definitely an option for him, because more than likely you're going to see Cian Lynch going, I would imagine, going out to midfield, and you'll have Hegarty and Tom Morrissey then as the two wing backs. I suppose the big problem for Limerick, as we said it earlier, is the concession of goals in the league, and whether Dan Morrissey is fit enough and Sean Finn or Mike Casey is fit enough. And I suppose the other one talking point of the league as well, and we haven't really mentioned it, Barry Nash was probably forced into a lot more defending during the league than he would have been going as the link man, and we've generally seen him as the link man going up along the field. He could even get in the end of a few scores. It's maybe something different that teams are going to try out come championship, is maybe try and force Limerick to stay in like that and force them to defend. I think that's something very, very interesting, looking at how Clare are going to line up on Sunday. And I suppose, can Clare follow up on the goals as well? They scored 3 goals in the league final. Can they follow that up on Sunday? I've always maintained that if Limerick are to be beaten, it's going to be by goals. Whether it's Clare, Tipperary, Cork, it's going to be goals that's going to beat them.
Yeah, I think, John, we have spoken on radio before about that, and I suppose we would all agree with that. You need to score goals, because Limerick could tap in there with 25 to 30 odd points in any given game.
You do, but you know what I think during the league, or maybe it was a coincidence or whatever, this new schlitter that's in use since the 1st of January this year, there's some, I suppose, talk around it. Is it holding up a bit? You know, are they getting the length into it? Are we going to see the long range?
Do you see much of a difference?
Like, I don't think it does, but there's a thought out there that it was, and maybe that they're not meeting it as sweet as they were, or maybe it is only rubbish, I don't know. But we'll know on Sunday, because, like, Clare, you know, were scoring a lot of points as well. They weren't so much at goal, but they hit 3 goals in that league final. But go back to Limerick, and we saw in the semi-final there, you know, Garrod Hegarty, Hannon, Cian Lynch, Aaron Gillane, all replaced, you know, in that
don't normally happen.
That don't happen. Now, throw in the fact that Limerick weren't happy under the dropping ball, under the high ball into their full back line against Kilkenny. Hannon, as you said, wasn't really back to himself.
Is there any chance, John, that at that stage the management, they weren't too pushed?
I wouldn't say too pushed, but there was a lot of handling, a lot of you know, unforced handling errors by Limerick.
Unforced individual errors?
Yes, and you don't see that with Limerick. Now, they had a chance after that. The following week, they were away in Portugal. They had time. They've had 3 weeks to address the concerns that may have arose during that league semi-final defeat. Now, they were beaten by 8 points. You know, you don't often see that since this Limerick team came on the scene. The other side of the coin, though, maybe, you know, there's a push for 5 in a row. That's a huge thing. There's no point in they saying they don't talk about it. Subconsciously it's there, and that's a thing. Now, a lot of that Limerick team are there since, what, 2017?
Yeah, well, they're 5 All-Irelands won.
They have 5 All-Irelands in 6 years,
yes.
And I think they have 5 Munster finals. But they're there since 2017. They're there a long time. Most of those guys have played in all those finals, and you know, they were only defeated in that semi-final by Kilkenny in 2019. So they're on the road a long time. Now, it has to take...
And they feel that they left that game behind them.
They do, of course.
Over a decision that was
correct,
made.
a wrong decision.
A wrong decision.
Yeah, you're right. It actually gave them a chance. It didn't beat them, but it gave them a chance to draw level at the game. With the 65.
65, correct.
But that's history now. That's water under the bridge. But they would feel that that they should have done it. But look at Sunday evening will tell a lot, but it certainly won't define the Munster Championship, or it won't define the All-Ireland series.
Francis, what do Clare have to do to defeat the champions?
I think first of all, Clare can match them physically. I think that's one attribute that they have over the other teams in Munster. They seem to have big men like David Fitzgerald, that they're able to match them and take them on physically. The second part of that I think they need is and I said it there a few minutes ago, is goals. I think to shake up Limerick, we're going to know on Sunday whether that league semi-final was either a blip or was something more prolonged. But can teams learn a lesson out of that? you know, we're talking about ways. What we need to see on Sunday is the teams can come out and take Limerick on, but can beat Limerick. I think that's what we're looking at from a Clare perspective, from a Tip perspective, from a Cork perspective, and Waterford perspective. That's where it has someone come up with something different. Clare are the one team that can match them physically and probably can outshoot them. But if they can get a goal or two, I think it can knock the confidence from this Limerick full back line that's been there. And I think that's been key, especially we've seen in the Kilkenny game. I suppose if you go back 3 years ago, just to the Munster final between Tip and Limerick, Tipperary did something similar in the first half with goals. Now, right, we faded out of the game after that. But it showed that there's an element that there is still an element of brittleness in that Limerick team, but it's how they're going to find the goals and be able to take on that Limerick defence. But more importantly, I think if you look at the Limerick half back line, they're generally playing facing the opposition goals with the way they're able to win the ball. It's how can Clare turn that half back line and make them face their own goal on Sunday and cause doubt, put doubt into their minds, I think, on Sunday. I think that's going to be a huge element to see, can Clare do that. And I said already, the other side of it is, if Limerick come back from their semi-final defeat, there was elements there which showed that maybe there is a blueprint that they could be beaten on. But is that sustainable? Will other teams read into that, or will Limerick have tidied up those leaks? I think the injuries and maybe the suspensions could still affect Limerick. As John said, it won't define their season, but it could definitely have a big say on how the Munster Championship goes.
John, I think we're going to see everything thrown at Limerick in the first 10 minutes of this game by Clare. The most important thing is here, they have to pace themselves.
Yeah, look at it. Maybe teams are trying to, maybe they might have given Limerick too much credit in the past there, and maybe didn't go out and play their own game. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think so?
Play to their own.
Should have to play their own type of
play to their own strengths. The team, you know,
yeah.
Rather than worrying about Limerick. And I think some teams go out with
is
that.
It too late for that now?
With that attitude, you know what I mean? Like, have they been aping Limerick, as the fella says, in their preparations rather than concentrating on their own game? The one thing we do know about Limerick is, and it wasn't there in that league semi-final defeaters, they're quite capable of winning their own ball, both backs and forwards, and that didn't happen. They were definitely off the pace in that semi-final. Now it was unusual for Kiley to be, I won't say critical of his men in that semi-final.
But I think he's an honest manager.
But
he'll say it as he sees it.
Yes, he definitely called it as most people saw it, and you know, maybe that's just what he needed. If there was complacency crept in, and that can happen with all good teams, complacency comes in, I suppose, subconsciously. Now, maybe that's what he wanted to get him back on the horse. Now, they went off to Portugal to the heat. They've done it. They're back now, and it will be very, very interesting to see. I'm looking forward to see these teams announced, Stevie, probably tomorrow night at around 9 o'clock when most teams are announced. It'll be very, very interesting.
It certainly is. Francis, your view on that?
Yeah, I suppose the important side of it, as John said there, what way they're going to line out. I think Limerick are hampered a small bit like that. Clare, on the other hand, have been getting a lot of fellas game time during the league. They also now have the likes of Shane O'Donnell coming back, and they've built a panel. I think John Kiley's hands are probably a small bit tied in terms of, does he stick or twist? He's a man that generally sticks, I think, which means we probably won't see too many new faces overall coming into the team. Barry's hands are completely tied. I suppose the big question is, can Limerick sustain it on Sunday against Clare? With the physicality we imagine Clare are going to bring to it. I suppose the other flip side of that is, Limerick won the league last year and started off the championship poor. Could we see a hangover from the league from Clare? You know, could Limerick take, you know, everything in their stride on Sunday, and it could really be a false dawn as well, like for Clare. It's hard to know how much to read into the league, and I suppose the matchups and who's going to match who. I mean, you look at the Munster final last year, Gillane got a bit too much freedom, and you'd hope that Lohan and...
But you're not going to get that much space below Innes.
Well, you're not, no, but we've seen that before when they played down there 2 years ago, and it's probably another side of it. Limerick has struggled to get victories below an Ennis when they've needed them.
I think a lot of teams have struggled, haven't they?
Yeah, we saw it in 2018. They went down there, a win was going to secure them players in the Munster final. They were beaten. Now I know they went down and won the All-Ireland. They went down there 2 years ago. They didn't come out of there with victory either. And whether it's just the field or the atmosphere, I don't know. They seem to struggle there. But I think it'd be interesting to see who's named on both sides and what, the matchups. But I still think Clare probably have the stronger team at the moment on paper. But then again, we've known Kylie to pull out a few stunts before, and teams have, he's moved the likes of Keane Lynch around. Did it below in, was it 2020 below in Cork, and kind of upset Tipperary that day. They weren't expecting him where he appeared, and Kylie can do that. Some of those players are versatile like that. We've seen it with O'Donoghue last year as well, so it'll be interesting to see.
Okay, finally over to John. It's going to be very, very difficult to call it, John. It really is. So I'm going to put the gun to your head.
Yeah, the gun is to my head. Look at it, as I said, during the round robin last year and the year before, Limerick had it. When it came to the final, Clare had it in the round robin, Limerick had it in the final. Look at, I'm going to go for a home victory in Cusick Park on Sunday, Stevie.
Okay, it's going to be an absolute packed house and down in Ennis on this coming Sunday. Throw-in is at 2 p.m. Your referee is Colm Lyons, and so it's going to be a cracker, I think. Do you both agree?
Yeah, definitely, and I think Lyons is a good choice. He has been the referee between them there for the last couple of seasons there, and he's a very level-headed guy, you know what I mean, and I think he's the right man for a contest like that.
Okay guys, all I can say is from the town of Cashel. Thank you both for joining me.